My brother, my brother, my brother. This is our first podcast together, and I am super stoked to hear your comments and your observations about this guy's life because I have a ton to share. This guy, Andrew Davis, he spent 15 years as a Buddhist monk and then got burned out, fell in love, left the Brotherhood of Buddhist Monks to become a software developer in Silicon Valley. I mean, what a life story. And he had so many fascinating observations that make me feel just a little bit better right now during this holiday season in December 2025 because you are half a world away. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling lonely. And this guy's story as a Buddhist monk, being surrounded by other Brotherhood of Buddhist monks, and yet he still felt lonely among all of those family. It sparked a chord. It resonated. So yeah, I can't wait to hear what you thought of it, and can't wait to share what the notes that I have. I have a ton of notes. I'm just gonna be just rambling right through them, and then listen to yours, and then react to yours, and who knows the kind of insights that we're gonna be able to produce from all of this. So the very first note that I have to share is this observation. You are not an NPC. I am not an NPC. We are not NPCs in this life, in this simulation. That's one thing that really resonated with me because listen, Andrew was a monk for 15 years. And during that entire time, he identified as a monk. He believed that he would continue being a Buddhist monk for the rest of his natural life. He identified with that. He believed he would continue to be. And yet he wasn't. And yet, when he turned 37, midlife crisis territory, if you will, shout out to all my millennials who are probably going through that. Um, he just pivoted and he was able to change his whole life trajectory. And that is proof that you and me are not NPCs. That this life we're playing, this simulation we are playing, we can change our character. We can change our game. This is not a simulation where you and me are a bunch of NPCs and there's only one main player and he can do whatever the hell he feels like doing. That's not how it works at all. If we want to change, we can. Because think about it. Imagine Andrew's life, okay? He turns 22. He decides to become a Buddhist monk. He spends this time, shaved head, robes, everything looking like a Buddhist monk. And if a main player came along and met Andrew, then a main player would just think, yeah, this guy is a Buddhist monk NPC who is here to teach me some life lesson and maybe impart some sort of wisdom and give me a +5 aura of wisdom intelligence. And then me as a main player, I'm going to go along my merry way and do my main player quests. And that NPC monk, he's never going to change. He's just going to be an NPC monk who's going to help another main player in some other way. That is how a traditional RPG game simulation would work. But Andrew proves that that's not true. Andrew proves that you are not an NPC, that if you've spent your entire life being one thing, like Andrew was a Buddhist monk, and you feel burnt out, you feel alone, you feel like this isn't me anymore, then you can change. You can fall in love. Something that a Buddhist monk NPC would be incapable of doing. Like, impossible, because his programming would not allow falling in love and going to work as a capitalist for a capitalist corporation in California and Silicon Valley. That would not be allowed in the programming. But the fact that Andrew was able to make that shift proves that you can too, that I can too. If I'm sick and tired and lonely and burnt out in this game, I can change. And that was like within the first 2-3 minutes of the podcast, that Andrew's podcast that I listened to. It had me writing these notes instantly. So that was fascinating. Yeah, and I wrote down here that Andrew had to, his entire identity collapsed. His entire identity just collapsed, and he had to rebuild it from scratch, which just blows my mind. And like I said, I met Andrew during one of his presentations, during one of his speeches at a little tech conference. And it was just the most fascinating combination of skills and life lessons that you've ever seen. Because his aura of being a Buddhist monk transferred into his now skills of speaking about technology and AI and even our lives in this simulation that we're playing. Fascinating, fascinating thing. So then the second thing that I took from that interview was very much applying to our time right now. And that is that you are not alone. You are not alone. I'm not alone. No matter how difficult this life, this simulation feels, no matter how lonely I feel, even when I'm among people, at a tech conference or a meetup or even among friends, sometimes I just get this profound feeling of being alone, like I'm not understood, like people just don't get me, like maybe I'm putting on a facade and no one sees the real me. Even when I feel that, Andrew's life story tells me that I'm not alone. And it's the reason why is super simple. He was a monk and he felt alone. He said that. He was surrounded by brothers, right? Spiritual brothers. He was surrounded by what would he call it? Foreigners? Not really, just people who aren't Buddhist monks. He was surrounded by them because he taught meditation. You could say that he was one with God, with the universe, especially towards the end of his 15-year journey as a Buddhist monk. He was as connected as people could be, and yet he still felt alone and misunderstood and lonely among all of these people. That was profound. And that feeling that he was utterly, deeply alone just solidified the fact that no matter how alone I feel right now physically, because you are half a world away, and metaphorically, spiritually, even when I'm surrounded by people but feel misunderstood, I'm still not alone, because there are other people like Andrew who feel very similarly. And there's some semblance of solidarity in that is comforting. That's just comforting, right? And yeah, it was just wow, it was wow. So my takeaway from that is to not feel so alone, and that hard mode, which is the mode that I feel like I'm playing in, I have a feeling that that's how you feel as well. That if this is a simulation, then you feel like you're playing on hard mode. Hard mode is brutal. And it's designed that way. It's designed very specifically that way because hard mode forces us to find allies, to not go through this life, this simulation alone, but to find allies, find our tribe, our people who get us. Hard mode is not designed to be played like an RPG, where it's just us against the world. We are these lone wolves who are just trying to tackle all of this by ourselves, don't need no friend. That's not what this simulation is designed for. It's designed for us to find our brothers, find our tribe, and go through it together as allies. And the reason I say that is because there is a quote from the simulation scriptures that proves that point. The simulation scriptures say, and I quote, "Living through a war is not done alone. Rebuilding a better world is not done alone. Gathering riches, rising into strength, finding purpose is not done alone." End quote from the simulation scriptures. And that solidifies it. Because the simulation scriptures tell us that World War III is on the horizon. And our quest, the main point of this simulation, is to gather wealth, strength, and our people so that we can live through that war and rebuild a better world on the other side. Right? So it's not designed to be done in isolation. You can't face a whole world war by yourself. You can't even level up necessarily and upgrade your life alone, you know? You have to have a team. You have to have people to go through it together. And the fascinating thing is that team, that tribe that you're looking for might not be in the life that you think it should be in. Because again, look at Andrew's life. He was surrounded by a brotherhood of the people that believed what he believed, that was doing the same, you could say, God-given work that he was doing. And yet he still felt alone. So that goes to show you that this tribe we need to find, these friends, these brothers, these people that we need to find to go through this simulation, might be people with different life paths and skills and personalities than we think we need. They might be people who would surprise us, right? Because look at Andrew's life. He left the Buddhist monk belief system and brotherhood, and he fell in love, and he got married. And being with his wife now is teaching him things about the human experience, about our experience in life that he could never get if he had stayed as a Buddhist monk. His time with his wife and with, I'm sure, the friends that he's made along the way and coworkers in Silicon Valley have helped him and taught him the nitty-gritty, deep-down core values in life that will no doubt help him to live through World War III and help his wife, his family, his friends through World War III in ways that his past self as a Buddhist monk couldn't have. You know? That's just what I extrapolate from it anyway. That's kind of what I'm observing from it, if you will. And it's utterly fascinating. Utterly fascinating. All right, so the next note that I have is how did he do it? When he was reaching the end of his journey as a Buddhist monk and didn't know it yet, he just felt burnt out. He felt alone. He felt like this wasn't his life anymore. How did he change his entire identity, his skill set, his life from one direction to completely the opposite direction. How did he do that? That's a critical lesson for us because we need to do that. We need to pivot. We want to pivot. We want to change. That's why we're here, right? That's why we started up this podcast. That's why we're going to continue listening to podcasts. We're going to try and level up our characters and change our game in this simulation. So how do we do that? How do we make that pivot? And what he said, it was in like minute 11, is that he tried to be a super ball. You know those like bouncy balls, right? That when you throw it against the ground, it just shoots right back up. That's the metaphor he used. That he doesn't want to be like an egg, which, self-explanatory, if you throw an egg down, it is not bouncing back up. It's just going to splat on the floor and cook. No, but if you are one of those rubber bouncy balls, then you'll just shoot right back upwards. That's the metaphor he used. I'm going to run with it. I love it because he said, it doesn't matter if I'm thrown to the ground, I want to bounce well. And that's what he did. You know, that's what he did. And that's the most important thing for us to do, is to have that mindset that if we want to change, if we want to shift, life, the simulation, will throw us against the ground. It's not going to keep us coasting because there's no physical, metaphorical possibility for us to just keep coasting at the same length. In order for us to change, we need to hit the ground. We need to hit bottom. And that's kind of where I am. That's kind of where you are from everything I've heard. And I have a feeling that a lot of people these days, that's where they're at. They're at bottom, rock bottom. Or if not, then they're damn close to it. So what do we do to make sure that when we hit rock bottom, we bounce back up instead of just shattering all over the floor? What do we need to do? I'm going to end on this, I think. I think there's 3 things that we can do now, instantly, right now, to make that happen. Okay? And that is 3 things, and then I'll explain them real quick. 1, to ping a player. Because as we learned, we are all main players in this simulation. This simulation is an MMS, a massively multiplayer simulation. That means we are not NPCs, all of us, just waiting for some main character to interact with us. We are all main characters, and we can change. So we need to ping another player. We need to be like, hey, and not just say something small talk like, hey, what's going on, man? But instead to actually reach out and say, how are you really doing today? Especially now around the holiday season with so much damn loneliness. We need to reach out to somebody, even if we've only met up with them once or twice, even if we haven't spoken to them in weeks or months. Just reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you doing? That's the first thing we can do. Then the second one is what I've been doing, and that is to trace the symbol of the simulation. I made a 15-minute video breaking down what the symbol of the simulation means and all that, but what I do anyway is I will trace it and I will meditate on what each part of that symbol means. You know? The dot being you and me in the center of the simulation, the middle one being one of our 4 elements that makes up who we each are, and then the triangle being our life path in 3 phases through the simulation. So I think that's a really important second thing to do, because just that 1 minute of doing that, of tracing the symbol of the simulation, it grounds me. It reminds me that I have a journey to fulfill through this simulation. And I just need to go on that journey. I can't stay stuck. I think those are the biggest things, I think those are the biggest things that we can do. Yeah. And the third one, at least this is what I thought of, was to like start a micro campfire. You know how people say that in the dark, when there's a campfire, you want to go out there and you want to kind of huddle next to it, and there's other people there and you talk to them and you share stories. Well, to just start a micro campfire. And what would that look like? I would think that would look like posting on X or on YouTube or something, just a very short, honest, one sentence kind of thought, to spark something in other people, that when they read that post, they are motivated to sit down by that campfire and share their little story, even if their little story is just one sentence.